Let's see here. We are trying to connect our feed to Instagram. So if everyone will please be patient with me. I think we have a connection now. And with that being said, welcome to the Racing Lanes podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Rico Muhammad. I'll be joined here shortly by my co-host, Mr. Chuck Snow. Tonight, we are going to be joined by our resident economist. We affectionately call him our resident economist, Mr. Michael Lampel. It's going to be an interesting, coupled with last week's show when we talked with Dean Croak from DAT, and we talked a little bit about freight fluctuations and things of that nature. This week, it's going to be, I think we got an interesting discussion on tap for us, and we are live tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So if you want to join the discussion, all you have to do is type into the chat, whichever platform that you're looking at, whether you're on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. Those three platforms, if you type into the chat, we should be able to see your question or your comment, and we will make sure that we involve that into the show. And with that being said, if you would do us a huge favor before we get started as well, if you would like, share, and subscribe, especially if you find anything that we're discussing tonight helpful, useful, entertaining, whatever. If you know anyone that can benefit from it, by all means, tell a friend to tell a friend. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and welcome in my co-host, Mr. Chuck Snow. Good evening, Chuck. How are you?
We're doing great, Rico. How's it going, man?
We're hanging in there. Not exactly. Didn't think that we would be doing the show from the truck tonight, but it is what it is. We are here. We're live. It's live. It's not Memorex, and so we're rip roaring and ready to go.
Rico, we could be doing it from a worse place. It could be a phone booth or the driver's lounge at a truck repair facility. So let's not complain.
True indeed. True indeed. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to tonight's show, especially with Mike. It's been a little while since we've spoken with Michael, and I'm really interested in some of the things that he may have to say. I know that last week we talked with Dean Croak, and we mentioned a little bit about different publications were saying that, the freight recession is over. But in the words of the famous sports broadcaster Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend.
No. It ain't over till the fat lady sings.
I think that some of those prognostications may have been a little bit premature. So with that being said, let's go ahead and welcome in our guest, Mr. Michael Lampel, and he can help maybe demystify some of the stuff for us.
Well, you know what they say, the difference between a freight recession and a freight depression is a freight recession is when I lose a load. The freight depression is when they confiscate my truck.
Yeah.
When they repo my truck, that's a freight depression.
I guess you got a point there. Hopefully it doesn't get to that. But Mike, thanks for joining us tonight. There's a lot going on in our world that affects trucking. And I guess, you've got a new president in the United States that has promised tariffs if his trading partners don't get in line. Canada, I have to say, it sounds like we're stepping in line quickly. Mexico sounds like they're being a little defiant. Maybe maybe the United States needs Mexico a hell of a lot more than they need Canada. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, what's your opinion on that? Can United States without Mexico? Because they certainly have a lot of raw materials there.
No, I mean, Congress is really good at creating rules and holes big enough to drive trucks through them. So we're opposing a 25% tariff on that, but wait, there's that, and not unless it's that, and maybe if it's that, then we'll do that. So there's a 25% tariff that applies to about 2% of the goods.
So is that what we're really making all this malarkey about? 25% on 2% of the goods?
No, I mean, the question really becomes is what he can get done the first 100 days. So it's not what he's going to do on the first day, because saying something and implementing it are completely different things.
Of course.
Indeed.
Totally different things. and then watching what the effect is going to be. That's going to be the next 100 days after that. Okay.
So we're into over half a year.
Right. I mean, so it'll be about 6 months before it's felt. Right. That's assuming they do it, but he's doing it for other reasons, and whether you like it or don't like it, the question is, what we should be asking is, what happens if they do implement it?
Right.
Right. So the tariffs are usually paid by the party that is shipping them, right?
Or
Sorry, the party receiving. Sorry, the party
sold.
receiving. Yeah, the party receiving them, right?
Right.
So the party receiving them, who ordered it, is going to pay it. I think we don't yet know what he's going to slap tariffs on, but will it make a change? Yes. So if you're a person trying to make a living off the docks and hauling freight out of the docks, you're going to feel it.
But my question is, what about, the raw materials and the parts that go into everything, whether it's a vacuum cleaner or a trailer or a truck? You've got all these components that go into everything we manufacture that are, none of them hardly are made in North America.
Well, I think it's too early to tell. I mean, this is a massive list. So a person saying I'm going to do 25% tariff on everything, there's a lot of everything. So and you guys know how shipping manifests work. So
Yeah.
it doesn't get to the border, says stick 25% off because Donald said so.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, it's gonna be a line by line item.
Right.
Right. So it's like, yeah, welcome to Donald tariffs. No, sorry, it doesn't work that way, dude. It's like, I got Belgian waffles from Brazil, and I got God knows what from where. So, and it could be transient. It's too early to tell. But I think the question becomes is, where does the economy go from here?
Well, yeah,
and that's really more the question, right? I think the U.S. is in a better shape than Canada. That's
100%.
a given.
Yeah.
That's a given. But I think there's going to be a lot of changes the next 4 years, and not all of them created by him. A lot of these things that are going to happen are way out of his control.
Well, yeah, look what happened in Syria the other day. That was
couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
Well, let's try not to get too political here, but
I know.
But
I hope he likes borscht.
That happened, and they inadvertently affect everything we do in the trucking and logistics sectors.
Yeah, as I said, I think there's going to be a lot of changes in the next few years. And the irony, and this is a really crazy off-topic story, but to give you an idea where the world is going, you of course had that unfortunate incident in New York with that CEO got shot, right? Okay. But do you know what he used to shoot him?
I understand it was a homemade gun.
Not a homemade. It was a 3D printed gun.
That's okay. Yeah.
Okay. But think about that. So imagine where the world of logistics now goes if parts can be manufactured 3D that are strong enough to withstand the launching of a bullet. Think about that. Think of
a lot of parts in-house, right, that you don't have to make in other, in Asia somewhere.
Exactly. That's exactly it. I mean, so many things are going to be now, of course, computer engineered, computer manufactured. There are so many advances in various metal alloys and other types of fabrications that a lot of the car companies are going to bring manufacturing of parts back in. That's my prediction, because why am I going to go source, mufflers from overseas if I can manufacture them using, 500 3D printers?
I don't know if it'll work for mufflers, but certainly work for every part on your
wheels,
dashboard, every knob on your dashboard, like all of that. Everything like that could be manufactured on a 3D printer. There's a 19-year-old, 18-year-old kid, friend of the family, part for my John Deere tractor on his 3D printer.
Yeah. So you can see where this is going.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but where does this go right now? I think we're in a very interesting time. There's a lot of changes going on between AI. I think there's, and I was saying to Chuck the other day, there is no, as far as I'm concerned, ChatGPT should be in every single trucker's cab.
Unpack
Every
that.
trucker's cab. Well, let me put it this way. They tested ChatGPT for weather and it was 100% accurate 30 days out.
Huh.
So that really means you can get that sort of accuracy. That kind of puts things like the Weather Channel totally out of business.
Totally. I mean, so those systems right now, every single trucker should be driving around with a ChatGPT or more ChatGPT than the others, I would say, because their language models are very different. But their ability to gather data and quickly analyze is astronomical. And if you're a trucker, it's your best friend. It will
Yeah.
save you a ton of money, a ton.
Give us some examples of some prompts that you would, since you make that statement. Give us some examples of some prompts that we might want to test out in the Chat GPT.
Well, I mean, one of the things you want to test out is traffic, because remember, it's also feeding. It's going out there into the sphere. Now, it depends on now every single language model it has, whether it be Chat or Gemini or Meta, they have different ones of them have different updates for different things, right? So you got to check to see which update they have. But I mean, their ability to forecast, their ability to analyze, their ability to analyze your clients, their ability to analyze your clients would be like, depending on how fresh and it's only the beginning, by the way. The language models that they're using are getting more current, more current, more current, more current.
So you're saying that Chat GPT would probably be a little bit more accurate or a little bit more what's the word that I'm looking for? Well,
No, accurate is right.
I guess accurate when it comes to traffic than my GPS that has traffic on it.
Well, your GPS is using the same system they are. They're using satellites, right? So it's information that's traveling over the internet. Same
But
way as they're gathering historical weather patterns with current weather radar systems and everything else.
But does Chat GPT get this information from the satellites quicker than, let's say, the Rand McNally or whatever system Rico has?
No, it's not that it gets it faster. It analyzes much faster.
Oh, that's okay. So it's getting the information quicker. It's
No,
analyzing.
it's getting the information. It gets the same feed everybody else does, but its ability to reach out everywhere and pull all the information to make a decision is instantaneous.
Okay.
So a weatherman might spend hours studying weather patterns. ChatGPT doesn't spend hours. It spends minutes.
Okay.
Right? It spends minutes. So go ahead, Rico.
Well, I'll let you finish that thought. I was going to change gears a little bit, but go ahead and complete
Go
your
for it.
thought.
No, please go ahead.
Well, like I was saying at the top of the show, a lot of people were kind of forecasting and saying that after the election and everything else, that, oh, okay, it's the end of the freight recession. And for a little while, definitely, I especially noticed it on the spot market, where in my area in particular, where I service customers, that freight did pick up. But I'm also noticing here over the past week or so that things have quite slowed down tremendously. And I know that we're going into the end of the year, and we have Christmas coming up.
Right.
But I mean, it is really slowed down to a crawl.
But Rico, in fairness to everybody, I got into this business, 50 years ago, and unless it was a boomer year, every single year, just like clockwork, right after U.S. Thanksgiving, the big bird would go down, and it would not come up again. When I say the big bird, the freight world, it did not surface again until the end of February. We always had December, January, and probably into the third week of February when the retailers start stocking up again for spring, for the garden season and everything else, the beginnings of that. That's been historical. I think it's some of it possibly because we have been spoiled between, let's say, 2020 and 2022. We were spoiled rotten because freight never stopped for anything. It was moving like crazy Christmas Day even. And now we're back to a harsh reality. Is that what it is?
So, yeah, go ahead.
I don't know. No, I'm asking a question. Are we back to our seasonalities?
Well, yeah, it's that Christmas season, right? It's
Yeah.
Christmas season. Yeah, people are still they're up about. I think they're going to spend about 3 or 4% more than they did last year. Uh, but again, what you're going to see is, people spend their money. But the question is, what's next year going to look like? And I wanted to, by the way, I wanted to guys just do a quick test for you. Okay.
Yeah.
So to show you something, Rico, I think you're going to enjoy. I asked ChatGPT, right? Where was it? I asked it to analyze the freight rates for this coming year, January 2025, and it's saying freight rates for the LTL should be about 2 to 7% higher in 2025. It already analyzed it analyzed quickly what the LTL freight rates were average for 2024, and it said this is what the anticipated average rates are going to be like for 2025.
Can you be more specific and see what truckload rates are looking like?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just tested like New York to LA, for example.
Okay, that's a good one. LA to New York, maybe even better because you got a lot more freight coming off of the West Coast.
In first
a
quarter,
live demonstration of how useful ChatGPT
first quarter
could be in the transportation industry.
Yeah.
What will truck average per mile rate be from the LA to New York in first quarter? Look at that. So here's what it says. Average per mile truckload rate for freight transportation from Los Angeles to New York in the first quarter of 20 expected to stabilize or increase compared to 2024 due to stable market adjustments. Current trends suggest rates may range between $2.50 and $3 per mile for dry van freight, subject to fuel surcharge demand and capacity constraints. Key factors include capacity reduction. Many smaller carriers have exited the market due to financial pressures, reducing available trucking capacity and likely increasing rates. Demand fluctuations. Freight volumes are anticipated to grow slightly, with businesses adjusting the supply chains and inventory strategies, particularly post-holiday season. Fuel cost, economic condition, inflation, consumer spending, and business. For the most accurate, up-to-date rate details, consulting freight brokerage platforms or industry analytics closer for the period in question, and they give you the various platforms to check out.
Okay. That's now Dean didn't give a number, and I think $3 a mile is a little lofty, but it
said 250. It said 250 to 3.
What's that?
250 to 3.
Yeah, even 250, but I could see 250. Now the other thing, we have a potential strike coming up on the some of the East Coast ports, which could hamper things. But if it happens, I think that happens just before the Trump inauguration. If it happens after, or it's going on once he becomes president, I guarantee he will legislate them back to work.
Well, we're going to have to see. I think, as I said, it's the administration is outsiders. The administration has never been tested this way. So, we're going to have to see just how much is going to get done. But as I said, the reason why I gave the demonstration, and I gave it a general demonstration, I did a very general thing, is to say to the listeners today, which is you want to learn these systems. You really want to spend time learning these systems. The ability to analyze data is astronomical. You can feed it tons of data. It will analyze your operations in minutes.
That's huge because some of our listeners, although we've been hammering at it, may not know their costs, and this may help them. And that's how people get into trouble in this business. You hear about it every day, all day, is carriers not knowing their costs and offering their equipment below what their cost is. That's how people lose trucks.
Yeah,
as a rule.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly it. The economy, I know how people are feeling in the States, and the inflation is up, and inflation is painful. But overall, the economy is still fairly strong. Employment numbers are fairly strong. Markets have gone bananas.
Yeah.
But I think the question is, and also the real question now becomes is a lot of the commercial real estate is drowning. So the question now becomes for the malls and all those things is changing even faster. All this is changing even faster. And believe me when I tell you, the next generation of AI chips that are coming out from NVIDIA and the others are going to be mind bending compared to what you're using right now in the next 2 to 3 or 4 years. So I would expect that the economy is going to continue to transform. My prediction is going to be you're going to get the truckload, but you're going to get more local producers of manufacturing goods. As more machinery comes online, as more technology comes online, synthetic fibers, synthetic everything, more and more things in the next decade are going to be produced locally as opposed to trucking them in from across China. So if you wanted, as an example, a vacuum cleaner, you'd be able to whip it up in your 3D printer, or you'll find a guy who makes 3D printed vacuum cleaners.
Wow, that's going to. Now, what do you see, Michael? I know right now electric cars have hit a bit of a standstill. Do you see that standstill continuing, or do you think it's going to hit the accelerator again?
I think the EV systems were way ahead of their times. They were brought out way too early. Way too early.
Because the infrastructure can't handle it, or what?
That's one thing. But what's happening is, um, let me put it to the way you guys will understand it. Okay, imagine somebody invents a truck and he brings the truck to market. Okay, so everybody's like really gaga for this beautiful Mack truck, but think that every 6 months they're changing to a different engine, and that's been the EV problem. Every 6 months, a whole new type of battery. So you had a battery 6 months ago that's not as good as the battery now. And then 6 months from now, won't be good as that battery. And they're all different batteries,
Okay.
right? So here you go, you bought a truck in January, but by June, it's like, that's already old.
And can you retrofit it?
No,
I know
no,
those batteries are pretty dang on expensive anyway.
Well, that's the whole car is the battery, really, isn't it?
yeah, but also the whole car runs off that battery. So it's as if, like you say, let me just rewire the house so I can have the radio operate on a different level than the TV. Put the
Yeah.
electronics in the car to run off those batteries.
So, do you think that the whole EV, as far as cars, I know they're still toying with them with trucks, but do you think as far as cars, it's kind of parked for now, that sector? Because that's got a huge impact on trucking.
Well, that's an interesting question because I think this is going to be very interesting. First off, and I'm curious to find out is, and you guys probably know more than me, is how the trucking industry, and I mean the manufacturers, are going to be utilizing AI technology to redesign engines to be way more fuel efficient. Because that's the one thing that the EV systems did do is they finally forced the gas car companies to create whole new types of engines that are way more fuel efficient. Because then the car companies realized we either start changing the engines or we're going to be toast anyway because we'll be eaten by the EVs. So it forced innovation in the design of engines.
well, and
Now,
some of the innovation has gotten forced through legislation. There was, and I don't know whether Trump is going to rescind this. You know,
well,
that new law that they came out with, where you have to cut carbon by so much, and people that don't even want electric trucks have bought a couple electric trucks just to get their carbon footprint down enough to be compliant.
well, I don't know if it's compliance. That he won't do it because the tax credits, the carbon tax credit market is so huge now. That's a huge market. I mean, Elon Musk doesn't make money from cars. Elon Musk makes money from the green credits, right? But also you have those carbon tax credits, the carbon tax swaps that they sell to each other, right?
Right.
That's become a huge market for Wall Street. They're not about to give that up, right?
Okay.
But what's happened is that the fuel mileage of cars has really expanded. I mean, car now, it's not uncommon to get a car that's going to do 30, 35 miles to the gallon, 40 miles to the gallon. If you're talking about a Prius, as an example, that'll do 80 miles to the gallon.
That's a hybrid, I take it. That's how it's
Plug-in hybrids, plug-in
Okay.
hybrids. And this is also why I'm not optimistic about the EV cars, and that's because of the electricity demand of the new AI systems that are coming online. These are huge amount of power hogs,
Yeah,
massive.
that's what I understand. That they're
And right now, the only people competing with EV batteries right now is the crypto market.
and that seems to be doing quite well lately. Not that
No,
I
I mean the electricity, the amount of electricity they use to mine crypto is
yeah,
off the charts.
huge. Yeah, yeah.
So now, if you take that whole theory, guys, you'll see where I'm going. If the cost now of bringing in a product from China is going to be so expensive, because if it's electric truck and electric car, da da da, and there's a guy down the road who's got a 3D printing company who can manufacture the part.
Yeah.
Go to the guy down the road.
You know, it's funny. I've got a nephew that has a manufacturing plant in British Columbia. He just bought he bought a cyber truck, and he said to me, he said, you know, with my company with a 3D printer, I can make, as long as I have a serial number, I can manufacture my own cyber truck.
Yeah, yeah,
Pretty pretty unbelievable.
yeah. So that's why I said the shift in the economy, I think, and this is where the U.S. leads everybody, and that is the technology that the U.S. manufactures is not replicated anywhere in the world, probably other than Israel.
Right.
Right? Other than Israel, which is very technologically savvy, the U.S. has more than enough capable people to create systems and machinery and everything needed to produce a lot of that stuff locally. A good example is going to be, think of T-shirts. Like, why would you ship it from China?
Because they're cheap over in China and Pakistan.
No,
That's where they
the
all come from.
labor's cheap. The labor's cheap.
Yeah. Well, that's yeah.
But guess what? China just built 98 miles of highway, Rico. Did you know that?
No,
Yeah. Guess
I
what they
heard that
used?
they were doing. I heard they were doing some serious building. I seen some bridges and stuff that they were building.
No, they built 98 miles of highway. But ask me what they used.
3D printer.
Robots.
Ah,
They used robots to build the highway.
You know, guys, it's really funny. About 20 years ago, my son lived there, and he was watching something, and they were actually fixing a road, and they were doing everything without machinery. And he said to somebody, "What the hell? Why are they doing this? You know, like so manually?" And the answer was, "We have 1 billion people. We've got to keep them working."
Yeah.
And 20 years later, he goes back to China on a business trip, and he said, "Oh my God, the place, you wouldn't recognize it. It is so modern compared to what it was 20 years ago."
Yeah. Yeah. This is where they're killing us. They're killing us because they have 6,000 miles of high-speed rail.
Yep.
We can't even do one. You know?
well, and that kind of speaks to how China is kind of going all over the world as well, and buying up a lot of stuff all over the entire globe. I know that they have a heavy presence in Africa. I know they have a heavy presence also. I was last year. I think I went to vacation in Jamaica, and they built the highway in Jamaica and a lot of stuff like that. So you know, a lot of places they definitely have their finger on the pulse in a lot of different areas across the world.
Well, in North America alone, they own all sorts of farmland in both our countries.
Yeah. But that is where I think it's going to be an interesting. That's where the politics gets into it. So the
Right.
politics now is going to be, what will the foreign ownership rules be?
I could see them getting tightened.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot more scrutiny now of foreign takeovers. That will be one thing because the one thing the Chinese want is they want the technology. It's all about the technology.
Well, the
You-
thing about it, the thing about we talking about technology and talking about in our industry, in the transportation industry, all this technology that's coming down the road, that's in the pipeline as it speaks. Are we basically getting ready to put everyone out of a job?
No, no, no. People said that to me often. I said, no. I said the future is we're going to be serving the machines,
Ah,
because
right?
the machines need
So,
to be serviced.
well, no, the machine, the whole system needs information, and the brain, the human brain, still creates more information than anything else. So machines are good at mimicking, but will they have the innovative ability? And that's really the question of seeing a problem and creating a solution, because that is the human brain. The human brain sees a problem, and the human brain says, "I see a problem. Now let me find a solution."
Right. And the first one that sees the problem and sees the solution is the winner.
Right. Well, an
well, the
execution
thing
hopefully.
about the thing about to kind of delve off and what the hell, we'll go down the rabbit hole a little bit. Um, I was watching a story talking about the housing. We're talking about the housing, right? So we know that there in America, there's a huge issue going on with Wall Street buying up a lot of single family homes
Yep.
and owning the single family homes and pricing them uh, really, really high. And one of the things that they were talking about in on this news story that I was watching was that they're putting everything kind of like what you were saying, Michael, into AI, and it's kind of reading vacancy rates, the demand for the area, so on and so forth. And so when it does that, it raises the rents without say the human empathy involved. So it raises the rents and it pushes the rents, keeps pushing the rents at a higher and higher rate to where now it a lot of Americans feel as if actually being able to save money to buy a home is very far out of reach because you can't afford to save money if you're paying um, over 30% of your income in rent.
Of course.
Mhm. Yeah, that's. I remember when they got into it about 10 years ago. I said the moment they started buying houses, I said, "Oh, this is not going to go well," because now what you get is, we all remember watching movies with dukes and lords who had,
Right.
massive amounts of land. Well, now the corporations with all this land, they are the new dukes and lords
Right. Rather
for the next
than one
500 for the
person,
next
it's
500 years.
yep. Rather than one person, it's a public company or a private equity group or somebody
Or a
on
very
Wall Street.
wealthy man, or a very
Yep.
wealthy person.
Right.
Yep.
And like I said, and so they whereas you had previously where you had humans that were owning this property or whatever, and they would maybe bump the rent maybe 2 to 5% on a periodic basis. But now you're getting to the point where you're getting rent bumps because of they putting everything in the AI and they're seeing that the demand and in certain areas there is a huge demand and there's not enough supply. And so
Oh,
when
well,
in the case,
I'm gonna make it even scarier for you. If you want
mhm,
to go scarier than that, one of the most common used thermostats in the United States is Nest.
right,
Well, who do you think owns Nest?
Google,
Google. So Nest collects all the data. So
right,
when they come to you for your rental increase, it's because they read the Nest. So they know exactly how much power and heating and everything else you're using. They know exactly what you're doing, right?
right,
So
and that's and Google has it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not going to just single Google out. But most of these companies, when you're using their platforms or their apps or whatever, they kind of reserve the right to be able to sell your information. That's kind of like how Meta was doing. That was the thing
They're,
with
they're all
with
doing it. The
they're
crane
all doing it.
guys are doing it. There's big concerns about the cranes inside the shipyards. Um, those things are they're made in China, apparently, some of them.
Yeah,
And
yeah. That's why. Yeah.
and you know what? The Chinese, if we got into a trade war, apparently they could shut it down.
They could, but that would launch World War III.
Yeah, well, yeah, and we don't want. I don't think anybody wants that. I don't even
No,
think. I don't even think the bad guys want that. You know that. It's so the thought of it is
no.
so.
But I think, when we're getting back to our brothers and sisters and people out on the road, as I said, technology, if you guys start, and these things, like, that's why I like these chat GPTs and Geminis and Metas and Perplexity and others, and they're just the start, right? I
Right.
mean, the new systems that are coming out, AI agents and all that, which everybody's going to have probably in 5 or 7 years, everybody's going to have their own AI agent. Um, if people are listening tonight, learn how to use it. It will be a godsend for your business.
Now, next, do you think if you and I don't want to put you on the spot, Michael. You're a guest and you're my friend, but do you think under the Trump administration, the economy is going to get a good bump? Because that's
Well, I don't
really
know what I don't know what a good bump is. I mean, if there's a good bump, they raise interest rates, so you don't want a good bump.
no, but just a bump in the economic activity, people spending more money, because that's what drives trucking.
I think right now, if they stay exactly where they are now for a year, that's a pretty good position. If they stay exactly where they are right now for a year, that's a really good position. The unemployment rate's at 4.8%. Inflation is back down. Markets are all time high. So I mean, I think this was a very unusual election. This was not an election about the economy. This was an election about social issues.
And personalities, I would say,
Oh
because
yeah,
let's
yeah.
not, in the way I look at it, Trump never got voted in. The Democrats got voted out.
Uh, I think I think the one thing Americans should take credit for is this election literally had two very diverse views. So in this case, when Americans voted, they clearly had a clear choice. It wasn't as if the Democrat was sounding like a Republican and the Republican sounded like a Democrat.
Definitely not.
They literally were very different from each other.
I agree. I agree. Now, Bruce from Lead Pedal podcast made a really good point here. It's good to use AI for benefit, but if you allow it to do everything, people will find themselves moving back on the scale of life.
Well, I got to tell you something, Bruce. It ain't up to you and it ain't up to us. It's not a question of what we allow it to do. It's a question of the powers that be are going to make us do it.
Yeah, we'd be forced to.
Yeah, you'll just be forced to. So you just gotta you gotta say to yourself, I can fight it, or I can learn how to use it to my benefit.
Well, I guess it's like any technology. You either learn to use it or you.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, go get a pickup truck and just do deliveries around the neighborhood.
Well, you know what? I think sometimes those guys are doing the best. They're home every night. They're not looking for a parking spot at 2 o'clock in the morning. You know, there's something to be said for it. I know a lot of guys that through the massive amounts of changes we've had and re-regulation have gotten out of the long haul business, and that's exactly what they do.
Yeah.
They bought smaller trucks. They don't go as far and don't haul as much, and they're making. I think they're probably making more money, and they have a better lifestyle.
Yeah, if they're and you don't have to have you're not going to make $1 billion doing this. So you got to figure out how much income do I need, and then what do I got to do to get the income,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just reaching for something that's going to fall on top of you. But I think it's just there's going to be a lot of changes. There's going to be a lot of changes. Just get ready for the changes. There's going to be buckle up, and it's not all because of Donald Trump. Just to be clear,
Oh, I think we get. You know what? If you put everything on Trump, I think you're giving the guy way too much power and too much credit. He's one man. There's a whole. There's still 350 million people in the United States,
mm-hmm.
and they drive change.
Yeah, and I think the world, the world in the last year and a half or 2 years since the start of the Ukraine war, then the Middle East war, then the immigration issues, those are going to be the paramount issues, I think, for the next 4 years. The economy is doing okay, and I think in some respects, and I think in some respects this started with Trump, then COVID. It brought a lot of that back into the United States. It brought a lot of that back in.
Now, would you say, in your opinion, the United States has done a good job in reshoring and bringing manufacturing back to the U.S. at this point?
Yeah, yeah, I'd say yes. I'd say they've done I think companies have realized the political winds have changed, and it's not going to be politically viable to sell the idea of more profits by outsourcing to cheaper countries. But also, to be fair, there's not a lot of cheap labor countries left.
Right.
Because their costs of living.
Well, their economies were increased, right? Their standard of living increased because of all the offshoring.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember as a child, if something was made in Japan, it was inferior.
Mm-hmm.
Until about the early 70s, when Japan started to make cameras and cars. And actually, the first Japanese cars were rust buckets. But after that, they figured out how to do it. And now, according to a guy I was talking to who's an auto broker, he said, in his opinion, the best vehicle on the road is a Lexus.
Subaru had better ratings recently, but Toyota's made a lot of changes in the labs. Nissan is almost broke, so Nissan will be going out of business, I think.
Yeah, I heard about Nissan is
You
in
think they'll
real
go
trouble.
out of business?
Yeah,
They're
from
close.
what I've
They're
heard,
close.
they're in real trouble. Real trouble.
Yeah.
The
So
only way
Stellantis. So Stellantis.
they may get bailed out by Honda. I think they're trying to sell a little piece with a joint venture with Honda, and Honda may bail them out. But from what I understand, Nissan is in real trouble.
And so is Stellantis.
Now, Stellantis, that is Chrysler.
Jeep, Chrysler, Maserati, and 7 other brands. Alfa Romeo.
Okay, that's all part of the same group.
Uh-huh.
Now, there's some other British or some other European brands they have as well, correct?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember which one it was. Yeah, they have UK brands and things like that, Chinese brands, things of that nature. But I think the only one that's salvageable is going to be Jeep. Jeep is doing pretty well, but they're also in deep trouble, and their CEO stepped down. So, there's too many there's been too many car manufacturers for years. Everybody's known that.
Wow.
There's too many car manufacturers.
It's going to be really, really interesting with like I say, especially the situation going on with Nissan. That's going to be a really fascinating development to see how that kind of shakes out.
Yeah.
But do they have that much of the market, anyways? Nissan,
no.
But that's part of the problem. They don't have that much.
Right. Exactly. Well, I'm just wondering if they were building cars and losing money on every one, or they just have a small market share.
Well, their market's been. They haven't had any new models, but the real issue beginning, right, for the truckers and all that. That's what I'm saying. You got to look at the shift of how technology is going to affect all this, because that's what's going to affect trucking. Technology is going to affect manufacturing, which will affect trucking.
Yes, very much so. Now, what do you see for retail if you look in your crystal ball, Michael? Because that does, a lot of truckers are involved in the retail sector other than groceries.
Well, how many truckers are going to malls these days?
Well, malls are a whole other, yeah. There's, mind you, I've been to a couple of malls where there wasn't just activity. There were people carrying bags, but maybe that's just because it's, getting close to Christmas.
Yeah, but I mean, the consumer consumption is still there. It's still going strong.
But it's being converted, is it not, to more online and away from your bricks and mortar, especially malls?
Well, they're doing all that, but I think the question is going to be 5 years from now, how many laptops are going to be manufactured in China? Not that many.
Yeah,
right?
especially if a kid can manufacture them with a 3D printer.
Well, I mean, 3D, but also the way technology is changing. These laptops are changing. You know, your computer, your TV is now your computer screen. I can. So, what do I need a laptop for if I'm going to just stream from my phone right up to my TV?
Yep. Good, good point.
Right?
Good point.
That,
You know, it's funny. I think my last laptop or my second last laptop cost me $1,200. It was driving me nuts because it was bilingual and I couldn't get the French off it when I needed it, and it was just giving me problems. I went out to buy a new one. Brand new one was $400.
yeah. And it still gives you shitty emails.
Well,
You know,
good
I'm
point.
still getting I'm still getting emails from Rhonda in UK who wants to date me, and I'm like, come on,
I've been with the
you
same.
know.
That's an old email because I've been with the same woman for almost 47 years.
Yeah, I'm going like, geez, you know, Rhonda, find somebody else, Rhonda. Okay, leave me, Rhonda, please. Can't get her out of my mind.
Write a song about that, Mikey.
I should write something. I think that's what I said to you guys. I think the trucking industry. The question is also is how many truckers are going to be left in business in the next 10 years?
I think you're great operators, whether they're big or small. And I think you're small. There'll be small guys that are sitting there with 1 to 20 trucks right now that will become the new ones. And I think you're going to see some of the behemoth old ones die.
Here's a
Yeah.
here's a dilemma that I've been contemplating on and been kind of mulling over.
Go ahead.
With everything being the way that it is, I think that a lot of people have been feeling this way for a very long time. But I think we may be getting to a point where it's actually um, becoming a reality. And what I'm speaking of is the big fish eat the little fish. And are we getting to a point to where there's going to be it's going to be very difficult to remain a quote unquote, I use air quotes, a true independent owner operator, or will the true independents ultimately be forced to kind of sign on and be a country, be a contractor owner operator for one of the bigger firms that are out there in order to kind of insulate themselves from um, the turbulence of the open market.
I think going forward, the old adage of the big fish eat the little fish is no longer going to happen because it doesn't need to.
I agree.
Companies acquired other companies to get a hold of their customers or their equipment. They don't need that anymore. Data now is going to be live, which means you're the shippers and the truckers and all of it is going to get to be almost instantaneous connections over the next several years, which means I don't need to buy you out for your client list. I could just contact them.
No, you buy them out for the relationship, but you know what I find, and I think that the little guy's got more of an advantage than the big guy as far as
He does.
cost, because I think the little guy doesn't have those layers of management and the cost of those layers of management that the big guys do.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
why
There's a, yeah. Yeah. There's a complete deconstruction of all industries, total deconstruction. So every piece of a company is now being broken apart and being done by outside people.
right, because it's
So if you're a
cheaper.
truck, right? So if you're a trucking company, like, why would I want to own the New York to LA route? Why don't I just own half of it and partner up with somebody who'll do the other half?
Yeah. Yeah, it's no longer where the economies of scale necessarily work because you need management to manage those. And I think the little guys can do a much better job. I think they're more nimble and they're not
Well,
they're
well,
not
but
run by bureaucracies.
well, then before we leave, guys, I'm going to give you the future, and I'm afraid there is no more management. Management is gone. Okay. What is replacing it are systems called AI agents.
Okay.
That's what's replacing it. So Rico, here's what the AI agents will do. You will have a system on your computers at the work that is interfaced with your system. Your customer will call and say, I might need a load next Thursday from this place to that place. I don't know if it's going to be 10,000 or 15,000. Can you book me a truck? But I'm not really sure. And they're going to be talking as if they're drunk at a bar. And that AI agent will completely decipher everything they said, analyze it, book the truck and the trip, and totally pre-plan it. And there was nobody on the phone.
I know that there's a new load board that is out here, and they tout themselves as far as being able to utilize AI technology with assisting in booking. Um, I don't know, and maybe we might need to, Chuck. It might be a good homework assignment to see if we might be able to get these guys to show as
Yep.
well.
Yeah.
But they, but
Yeah.
they, but I got introduced to it. I got introduced to it a couple of weeks ago, and I've been kind of toying around with it. I haven't really booked the load off of it yet, but they're definitely like clockwork. They have like an AI phone call in the mornings that calls, checks to see the availability of your truck, and they'll send you text messages or whatever about available loads. That if you have a truck in the area or whatever, they'll send you text message. But I think that may be only as good as the
information
brokers that they're putting on the platform.
Right, but the AI agent is completely different. The AI agent will say to you, "Hey Rico, when are you going to be in Atlanta?" Well, I'm supposed to be there Thursday, but I got to stop here, and I might be there, and I don't know if I'm there, and this guy's there. It's analyzing everything you're saying, and then it'll come back to you saying, "We have a perfect load for you."
So what I'm wondering is, and this is another man. Right at the end of the show, we might be getting into the meat of the matter. So, there's this whole big thing going on right now about broker transparency, so on and so forth, and all of that deal. So, and for years and years and years, people have always talked about, well, with technology, we're going to be able to eliminate the broker or whatever. Not so sure that that's going to necessarily come into fruition and within our lifetime or whatever. But what do you think when it comes to that type of model with technology, Michael? What do you think it may get to a point to where it does actually make such as what you just suggested? Will it be as more and more shippers may avoid dealing with brokers per se and being able to use the AI agent?
Now that's where the big fish will eat the small fish. It'll be the AI systems. It'll be the AI. It'll be the brokers. The brokers who are the most technologically capable will devour the small ones.
That's going on. That's been going on for 20 years, and it's going on right now as we speak. If this is unfortunately or fortunately, depends on who you are and what you are, but the whole brokerage silo is a tech silo, basically.
Yeah. But you'll absorb the other guy for how many users they have.
Yeah.
And their systems and their capabilities. That's what you'll devour the other guy for. You'll devour them just to get a hold of their data.
Because data is king.
I said to you at the beginning, we're going to be feeding the machine. And that's what we're feeding the machine with, data.
This has definitely been a fascinating discussion.
Yeah, this is as always. Whenever Michael's on,
I would say to you, bring on board one of the guys who does AI agents, like programmers of AI agents, to give you guys an idea of how these things. They're just starting out. I mean, this thing is just starting out, and they're ahead of the curve because of the new chips that are coming out and everything else. But guys, I mean, we're not talking 20 years away here. We're talking 5 years away
at the most, because everything changes. Look what's happened in 20 years with technology, what we've been able to accomplish. It's pretty incredible.
So that's where it's going to be. And for those people who are, whoever's listening tonight, data. collect as much information as you can about your business, about your customers. Collect that data, because these systems will analyze it totally. And the better, and believe me when I tell you, if you get to learn it, and there is, by the way, if you want to learn how to do it, there's a free course on Coursera, Coursera. Coursera has a free 16-hour course on prompt engineering. And that's what they're calling it, prompt engineering. Because when you converse with an AI system, you enter what's called a prompt. But to
Right.
do that, there are these courses that teach you how to communicate with these systems.
Because it'll only give you back the information as good as it'll only spit back useful information according to how useful the prompt was.
Right, exactly. But there's different. But this course covers data management, websites, all of it. But it's a good, if you just do a couple of hours, it's a good course to understand how to use these machines.
Good deal. I think that's something that we definitely need to take under advisement. I'm looking at the time, Michael. We definitely appreciate you for taking the time out to join us this evening.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I didn't tick anybody off.
If you would, or if you don't mind, Michael, how can people find you and get in contact with you if you are so bold to put the offer out there again?
Not a problem. Michael.Lampel, Lampel, @gmail.com. Happy to answer your questions on marketing and tech. I've just about done everything other than scrub my own ass. That I left to Rhonda. Help me.
As long as somebody's doing it, it's all.
She walked in and she said, "What do you want?" I said, "Help me, Rhonda. Help me get it out of my house."
Could write a song about this. We're not supposed to have fun, guys. This is supposed to be a serious show. Come on.
Well, then Kamala Harris is under a truck somewhere right now.
So, but once again, Mike, yeah, it's definitely been entertaining to say the least.
Educational.
Absolutely. Well, Chuck, how can people get a hold of you before we get out of here?
If I can help any of our listeners, please send me an email, chucksnow280@outlook.com. Thank you so much for joining us, Michael. And if I can help anybody out there, please just send me an email, put your phone number on it. And with that, Rico, I'll let you back her in a hole for another week.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you guys for joining us. We are live tonight. You could have been anywhere else in the world. So if you're watching this on a rebroadcast or you're watching this at a later time, we definitely appreciate it. Remember, please like, share, and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps us out tremendously. If you would do us that huge favor, we greatly appreciate it. Hit the notification bell so that you will be notified whenever we do go live or whenever we do post new content. So with that being said, we want you guys to continue to stay safe out there, stay healthy, keep it in between the mustard and the mayonnaise, and God willing, we'll talk at the same time, same place next week. God bless you and good night.
Take care, guys.
Catch you on the flip-flop. God bless.
Thanks again, Mike.
Thank you,
my friend. Be safe.